All right, good evening and welcome everyone to Green White Checker TV. Tonight we have the Dark Horse Racing Area 51 Indy Series here tonight at Phoenix Raceway. This is race number 2 of 4 of the playoffs. Obviously, last week had basically an off week over the Thanksgiving break. So, hope you all had a very enjoyable Thanksgiving, friends, family, and loved ones. But we're back to racing here tonight. However, so usually I say Happy Friday Eve on Thursday nights, but we're going to go Happy December Eve, Steve, because somehow we're already all the way through November. We've got December kicking off here tomorrow, but we're at a very quick and difficult track here at Phoenix. So I know you've been running a few laps with these guys. I mean, what have you been seeing? What's some of the stuff that these guys are going to have to be careful about tonight?
I just um, there's probably going to be some issues with arrow push in both the turns, but I just think that people are going to be so concerned with shifting at the right time if they're shifting and hitting the gas at the right time to get off the turn without pushing into the wall that really, like I said, they're going to be more racing the track than each other.
Yeah, exactly right. I think you're spot on there. Where I think they're gonna have to race this track a lot more than probably one another. And I say another thing too is obviously this is the newly reconfigured Phoenix Raceway, and so let's say it's gonna throw the drivers probably for a little bit of a curve, but I think even more so gonna throw us for a curve. Because let's say where you were right there on track, we're used to that being the front stretch, but here let's say now it's the back stretch, so that's going to be coming into play as well. And I say as we see you leaving the pits here once more. Yeah, good call there. I see exactly what you were doing there. And then as I mean, just and the other thing, of course, is you see there's no cones anymore through the dog leg. I say now it's basically you get all 4 tires underneath that yellow line. You're going to get a slowdown penalty. And so that's obviously going to be extremely crucial as well and critical for these guys not to make that mistake during the race.
I noticed in 3 and 4, which I'm in right now, that people were taking a lot of different lines. For me, it seemed like the bottom line was the only one that I could really get around without the car wanting to hit the wall on the way out. So I don't know what they're doing differently. I don't know if it's settings that they're doing different or where they back off, whether they're braking a little bit or not. But it's definitely very tricky to get this right.
Yeah, no. So this is going to be a very challenging one for these guys tonight. And while you're making your laps, we're actually going to pull up the standings going into tonight's race with Nick DeGroot with a 12-point lead over Matt Wagner. 21 out is Jeff Heisung. Those three by far the furthest up in the points because you see it's a big gap to fourth with Charles Teed 37 out. And then you've got Yari Brupacher, Andrew Wood, Henry Bennett, and Craig Forsyth. Unfortunately, Henry and Craig unable to make the last race 2 weeks ago. Had some prior commitments. And so, yeah, so we'll have to get that all squared away. That's going to be a little bit tough for them to kind of try to recover from that. But, I mean, they're going to be going for it all. Even if they don't have a chance for the championship, they're going to be going after those race wins as well. And, yeah, Muff, you're spot on to say the difficulty of the audio on Steve was a user error on my part of not having him unmuted. So I missed the initial get-go on Steve. So apologies, I said we missed probably about the first 10, 15 seconds of when we were talking there, Steve. At the very beginning, but yeah, I think, like I said, we're watching you right now run those laps, but as you come across, here's that start-finish line right there coming out of turn number 4. As you approach that dog leg, it's going to be very, very different for these drivers. And I think the other thing, Steve, is going to be pit entry here. We see you there entering a little later. I've seen drivers actually duck in really early into pit road, pretty much running the inside wall all the way through turns 1 and 2 before they hit pit road. So I'll have to see maybe what is the faster approach if we get green flag pit stops. And then, of course, the other is the fuel mileage. 125 laps is the race distance tonight. But the thing I'm going to be watching, though, more so is going to be the fuel numbers to see can anybody stretch it to make this a 2-stopper. Because I'm hearing full rich is probably about 40 laps.
And I don't know that that there's going to be that much opportunity to save fuel at a track like this.
Yeah, that's going to be the other question exactly. So with that, though, qualifying has completed, and it's going to be Henry Bennett on pole position by over a tenth of a second. That's a huge number then qualifying there for Henry. Over Andrew Wood, Nick DeGroot there in third, Scott Rankin in fourth, and you got Craig Forsyth, AJ Hobson, Yari Brupacher, Jim Herrick, Jeff Heisong, Jim Brooks running our top 10. Charles Teed in 11th. And then a lot of drivers, Steve, opting not to qualify. So obviously showing you in 12th, unfortunately, you won't be starting up there. Then 13th on back, though, you got Matt Wagner, James Ledford, Carl Henderson, Josh Laston, Gary Corley, and Jimmy Drynan. So it looks like, I believe, about 16 cars taking part in tonight's event. Just a little smaller field than we've seen previous races, but I say honestly that might be a blessing in disguise for some of these drivers, because we know how tricky this track is with how quick, and with this being a short track, it's always a dangerous one.
I'm surprised to see Matt not take a qualifying lap, or does that mean he's screwed up?
It could mean a mistake in qualifying. It also could just mean maybe trying to get the highest climber points, possibly try to get every bonus point you can. And that could be an advantage for him. Again, Nick DeGroot didn't qualify on pole, so that doesn't give him a bonus point. But Nick starting third versus Matt starting in 13th, that gives Matt obviously a pretty good advantage. Where if, let's say, they finish within just a couple spots of each other, that could give Matt the opportunity of getting that bonus point. I believe there is a highest climber point. I have to double check that as well. So it seems like different series have different rules.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they have that in this one.
I'll say while we get ready to grid here, you see the car's just getting ready to roll off. I'm going to try to hunt that down, actually, Steve, while we talk about that real quick.
Okay, while you hunt that down, we're watching them pull out of the pits.
All right, so points are, bonus point, 1 for the pole, 1 for most gained, 1 for leading a lap, and then bonus point for finishing the race, 2 points for the race winner, and 1 point for leading the most lap. But more importantly, Steve, if you can finish this race with 0 incident points, you get 5 bonus points. So there's definitely a big incentive to keep this car clean and green to the finish. And
wow,
you see already here the pace car, you can see already off here down the backstretch. So that's, but again, they have to wait till the initial green flag here. So they got to go all the way down the backstretch before we kick things off here. And that's going to be interesting on restarts. Do they have any rules maybe saying, hey, you got to wait till you're in turns 3 and 4 before you go? Or could we see drivers jump extremely early out of turn number 2? As we say, the green flag is out. It's going to be Henry Bennett leading Nick DeGroot, Andrew Wood, Craig Forsyth. And we're going to, again, 125 laps is the race distance. We'll see how these guys get going here. These short tracks are always a question mark in these races.
And one thing I didn't really mention that well when we were doing the drive around before, according to what I was told by one of the faster drivers, he's not using his brake at all. I was not using mine, but I was awful slow compared to these guys and how they're going so fast without using the brake at all.
Yeah, it's really interesting the different driving styles that you can do with these cars. Like I said, like for us, I think maybe it's more of the stock car drivers, and that's where you're used to having to use that brake. But you're right there, some of the drivers are not really putting a lot of brake into these cars. But right now, it's pretty much spread out pretty quickly. Like kind of assumed that we would see, especially with that front of Henry Bennett having the clean air on the front of that 007. Got about a second already over Andrew Wood. We talk about playoff drivers, though they fill up the top 5 right now of the top 10. So right now, you got Henry Bennett over Andrew Wood, Nick DeGroot, Craig Forsyth, and Yari Brupacher. A little further back, Matt Wagner. We talked to him starting towards the back. He's trying to make some spots up here from the get-go, and not a bad start for him. He's already now up into the 10th position, so I believe that's going to be +3 for him. But the other one who's making some big moves early is that 09 of Josh Laston. He's gained 5 spots from his opening grid spot, going for 6 spots right here on that 40 once more of Jim Herrick. So a really good opening stint for Josh here. And then again, we'll have to see what the differing strategies are. Maybe some fuel savings for some drivers, maybe some just kind of going for it all. So I want to see what strategy might be the best one here tonight.
And let's see. All right, I'm showing Nick DeGroot's running 19.8s right now. Let's see what Henry Bennett's running because he's kind of pulling away from everyone.
Yeah, 1962 last time by for Henry Bennett, so about 2/10 quicker. And I think that's what you're going to see, that car that's got the clean air. I mean, I think he's just going to set sail. But it's also, I mean, when you've got Henry Bennett, you've got clean air. I mean, that's a really tough combo to put together. So right now, Henry doing exactly what he needs to do here, just kind of stretching out to about a 2 3/4 right now. So pretty much everybody else is spread out about 2 to 3 tenths or so from each other. Right now, Matt Wagner, probably one of the closer cars on track, trying to battle with Charles Teed. I'm going to mention Matt starting towards the back here is up to 10th, but again, in that playoff hunt, to say his competition right now is that 89 of Nick DeGroot, who is still about, 7 spots ahead of him.
Henry also has the added incentive of having missed a race, so he's got a lot of catching up to do with points.
Yeah, and that's a good point, too. And again, I mean, we saw, though, 2 weeks ago, we saw Jim Brooks. I mean, he pretty much took the field by storm and just took off. But everybody else was playing fuel mileage while he was going full aggression here. As you see Gary Corley trying to work over Carl Henderson for the 14th position here. But you can see right there, Gary had to roll out of it just a little bit more than Carl did, and so that's going to allow Carl to hold that spot there. Let's say another one here. We got Scott Rankin, AJ Hobson. AJ starting to put some pressure on that 156. But that's the next question. I mean, look how far Henry's checked out to about a 3-second lead over Nick DeGroot. So now that question is, at what point do we think, and actually I need to mention, Nick DeGroot had just gotten around Andrew Wood. And now actually Andrew's falling into the clutches of Craig Forsyth here as well. So maybe we're starting to see that fuel strategy, Steve. Maybe these guys back in on that fuel map, maybe to a map 3, map 4, map 5, to really try to make sure that they can two-stop this race versus going full rich. We're hearing maybe about 40 laps or so. Actually, I think, Gary Corley, something happened to him, and he's had to jump to the pits, unfortunately. So no yellow, but unfortunately that's cost him a lot. And actually, I think maybe contact with Carl Henderson, because Carl's actually got some significant right front damage as well. I'm going to try to go back and see if we can find out what happened between the two of these drivers here. Actually, I already see Carl. Oh, yeah, Gary's already around here. Go back a little further.
While you're doing that, Scott Rankin just got by Andrew Wood. Looks like Andrew just kind of slowed down to let him go.
Oh, actually, it looks like actually both cars just got tied out of turn number 2. Talk about the aero push and both heavy damage to both of their machines. Gary Corley got the worst of it by far. But yeah, we'll jump back live here though, Steve, like you were mentioning. Scott Rankin around Andrew Wood now. So Andrew's really dropping down here. I said, I don't think that's a pace thing. I think that's a strategy call. I gotta feel like for Andrew Wood, because that car looks to be in good shape here. I think he's playing some fuel mileage games.
As fast as Andrew is, I would guess it's either that, or it's hard to imagine that his tires could have gone away that quickly compared to everyone else, but I don't know.
Crazier things have happened for sure, Steve. So, but I say right now, the thing is he's saving fuel, yeah, but I mean, he is just in a hornet's nest right now. You saw AJ Hobson try to get around him there. I think, yeah, still side by side here down the backstretch. I mean, look at this gaggle you've got now. You've got Andrew Wood, AJ Hobson, Jeff Hysongs right here, Matt Wagner, Charles Teed. He's bringing Jim Herrick right back into the mix as well. So I mean, this is really tight quarter racing. I mean, I'm basically pack racing, if you will. And I say this is where things can happen in a very quick instant.
Yeah, and I'm trying to get a read on what Andrew Wood is doing, because it's, he slows down and people get underneath him, but then he gets on it in the outside line and either takes his spot back or maintains his spot.
Oh, Charles T. Close call between him and Jeff Hysong there. And that might be exactly it, Steve. I mean, that kind of, to me, that kind of says fuel map to me, just because he's hurting on the top end, which is, of course, where he's running that leaner map that's going to cost him top speed, but he's still going to have all the speed through the turn. So that kind of does have me thinking he might be looking at trying to do that fuel map, maybe fuel map 5 or something like that, where it's kind of going full lean. Just trying to stretch every ounce of fuel out of that 64 car. So, like I said, I mean, he's now fallen down to about, where's he at now? Yeah, 11 seconds off the lead of Henry Bennett. I mean, you think about how long pit road is here again, and also the speed of these cars. I mean, these guys are probably going about near 200 miles an hour through the straightaways, and then they've got to go all the way out of turn number 2, all the way through into turn number 4 at pit road speed. I mean, that's going to probably, I'd say, put you, I would feel pretty safely, probably about 2 laps down under green flag conditions.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I still don't know, though. I mean, if he continues to lose a lot of time between now and when they start pitting.
Yeah, that's going to be the question mark, and that was kind of what we were watching last week with Jim Brooks, where he was just really setting a blistering pace where everybody else was trying to fuel save. I talked to him post-race. Obviously, he wasn't happy with his end result, but he mentioned that he felt like he was going to have an opportunity to still cycle near the leaders, as his plan was to make that final stop, just take a splash of fuel to be a much quicker stop, to maybe keep him within contention of the front pack. So not obviously the way he wanted to end up, the way the cautions fell. But yeah, I mean, right now Andrew's falling back to 10th position. You got Josh Laston working him over here to get into the top 10. And also need to mention, we were just watching Matt Wagner, Steve. He's now worked his way up into that 6th position. Now he's +7 from where he started, so he's the highest climber currently. And then he's also now only about 4 cars now behind Nick DeGroot, who's running in 2nd.
And did you say there was points for highest climber or no?
Yes, there is 1 bonus point for highest climber, so that could bring that bonus point down, or the points difference down, potentially 1 extra for him to nick.
Okay. Andrew Wood is losing about 0.8 seconds a lap.
Yeah, it was a 20:38 for Henry Bennett to the 20:93 for Andrew Wood that last time by. I mean, that's a big drop off. I mean, he's running about the same lap times that last time by as Jeff Hysong, AJ Hobson, who are battling for position. And actually, here comes Andrew Wood now into the pit, Steve. I almost wondered, you know what? I'm wondering maybe he actually had some contact with the wall or something. Maybe had a little bit of damage to that car. Maybe they just was not handling. Let's say we may have missed a little bit of something there. I mean, the wing end plates, everything looks good on that car. But if he was fuel savings, there's no way he'd be hitting pit road right now. Unless maybe he's now trying to go a completely different approach and trying to do an undercut strategy where you kind of pit early to make use of those fresh tires.
Yeah, I'm thinking that he must have taken on some damage, maybe brushed the wall or something like that. So, damaged the suspension, but we can't see it when we look at it.
Yeah, so unfortunately that's going to put Andrew, I believe, we'll wait for it to cycle through. I believe it's going to be 2 laps down. And so unfortunately we mentioned that the issue that Carl Henderson endured earlier with that contact with the wall out of turn number 2. He's sitting at 3 laps down at the moment as well. So right now those are 2 cars a lap or more down. But what's really happening now, Steve, though, is this field is really spread out right now. A couple of the closest battles we have right now are Yari Brupacher with Craig Forsyth about 3/4 of a second, and now Charles Teed working on AJ Hobson. Now these guys are down to about just a couple of tenths here. But everybody else is spread out by about almost a second roughly of one another. So this opening green stint here now, lap 32, it's really spread the field out here just on this initial green flag field.
And I'm kind of wondering, I mean, if this is a 3-stop race for everybody, then I'm going to assume that Andrew Wood can potentially make it on 2 more stops. So, maybe pitting early will give him some advantage, but he lost so much time that I don't think he's going to be able to make that up.
Yeah, that's kind of my concern too, Steve, is the fact that he's lost so much time. First, either whatever was happening when he was dropping down the running order, either like I said, either damage or maybe fuel savings, and he just decided against it. But now that he has pitted, though, his lap times, yeah, he's running 20.2s. Leaders, actually last time by Henry Bennett ran at 20.3, so I mean, Henry's still knocking out some really solid lap times there. But it's unfortunately, you see Charles Teed, he's starting to lose the distance from AJ Hobson in front of him. Although AJ has a little bobble there off of turn number 4, that's really allowed Charles to close multiple tenths of a second just right off that turn. Now down to about 3 tenths, basically half a second he gained right there out of that one mistake. But that being said, though, Steve, we're already on lap number 36. And so again, I mean, Henry Bennett, he's got about a 5-second lead over Nick DeGroot. I really think that I don't see Henry probably doing much fuel savings here. I think he's probably going to be coming in most likely about the next 5 or so laps should we stay under green.
And the draft is not going to help much here. So I think, when he pits, that we're going to start to see everybody else pit around the same time.
Yeah, I think the magic number, I think, for these guys, if they want to try to two-stop it, it would probably be, around lap 42, if I'm not mistaken. Because, I mean, that would put you at what would be 42, then 84, and then 126, if my math is correct.
That sounds right to me. Somebody just went, someone's...
Oh, yeah, Scott Rankin. He's going to be the first to hit pit road here, Steve. So he's pitting at lap number 39, so maybe trying to undercut here possibly. Like I said, going with that 3-stop strategy. So this is one of the first of our front runners to do so. It's allowed Matt Wagner to grab that spot as well, move him up into the top 5. So we know that, I mean, that kind of tells us right there that Scott's been definitely going on the aggression here. So yeah, so we'll have to keep an eye on that.
But we're not that far from lap 42, and if Henry Bennett makes it that far, that means pretty much everybody else should be able to, because he's been setting a blistering pace.
Yeah, that he has, and like I said, he's still running the numbers. I mean, he's at lap 41 right now. So, I mean, everything we're seeing here, it's kind of showing that these guys might be able to make this strategy happen as Henry stays out yet one more lap. So he's going to get to lap number 42, or 42, I'm sorry, here. So, I mean, I think his fuel numbers are right on the number here. Is Nick DeGroot. Actually, he hits pit road a lap earlier. So yeah, so we'll see now if Nick is going to be okay to make it on 2 stops, or if he's going to have to maybe take a splash or do aggressive fuel savings. But here comes Henry Bennett. He's going to hit pit road. Jim Brooks coming in right behind him. Just went down a lap. So yeah, so right now these guys are all looking like they're able to pull off this 2-stop strategy. Right now you see Craig Forsyth, Yari Brupacher. But Matt Wagner, he's going to go one more lap, Steve, here. That's going to get him a bonus point as well in that 11 car. Again, every point matters.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way we're running so far, it looks like at least all the playoff drivers are on pace to finish this race without any incident points.
Yeah, and that's going to be the next thing, of course, too, is Matt continues to stretch the numbers out. And so now the only question, of course, for strategy-wise is going to be maybe when do you, like, you have to make the 2 stops. Maybe you try to stretch it as far as you possibly can, because we know, again, I mean, if a caution comes out at an untimely opportunity here, that's going to gain a ton of positions, maybe trap a bunch of the field lap down. Because as Matt Wagner hits pit road, that's going to now bump Josh Laston to the front. And we're approaching now lap number, crossing there right there, 45 here. So again, I mean, look at the ticker on the left here, and you see pretty much Nick DeGroot on back are all 1 lap down as they run here. So I mean, if you get that perfect timed caution here, if you're Josh Laston, I mean, you could have the whole field pretty much having to take a wave around. And you know that's going through that 09's mind right now. It's like, man, if I get a caution right now, this would give me a ton of track position.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And he'll be able to stretch it even farther on the next run.
Yeah, exactly right. So and that's exactly right too, Steve. Is, I mean, at this point he's on 46 here, so he's not too far away. I mean, he's gonna be able to go to this next time he pits. He's gonna be able to stretch this thing to lap 92, 94, or at this rate. As you see, he's gonna duck down to the apron. He's gonna hit pit road this time. And that's going to complete our first cycle of green flag pit stops. So hats off to the drivers here. And so as we see him hit pit road, that's going to cycle Henry Bennett back to the point once he gets back to the backstretch here. But again, though, the margins, though, are just... There's big margins right now, Steve. I mean, it's about 5 seconds, I think, between Henry and Nick. And then we'll see what it is off of Scott Rankin. Again, Scott was one of those a bit short pitted, though. So I'm a little nervous for him if he can make that 2-stop happen.
Yeah, I would say that he may be the only one that's not able to do it.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. I was saying the other driver right now that's just kind of trying to run as far as he can and hope for timely cautions. That 42 of Carl Henderson having to pit early there with getting caught in the turn 2 wall. And then also Gary Corley pitting on 12 and 13 respectively. So they're just kind of banking on a timely yellow. Actually, I'm sorry. It looks like Gary's retired. So it's right now it's actually just Carl Henderson that's yet to make his, I would say, really official first scheduled stop.
Okay, so let's look at separation between these guys. Henry Bennett and Nick DeGroot were about 4.5 seconds apart after the pit stop. They're 5 seconds apart right now. That's actually not bad. Nick is hanging in there pretty good. Scott Rankin, Henry Bennett, the same thing is happening, I think, that happened the first run. Henry Bennett is so fast on the get-go that he gains a lot of time on these guys. But it seems like eventually things kind of even out.
Yep. I say the problem is once it evens out, like you said, he's grown that lead to multiple seconds.
But we've got Nick DeGroot is the closest one. Then you've got Scott Rankin that's 9 seconds back. He's on slightly older tires. Jari Brubacher is in fourth, and he's 10.3 seconds back. Then Matt Wagner at 10.6. Andrew Wood 15.0. Of course, he stopped a lot earlier than these guys, so his tires are going to be a lot older. Be interesting to see how much time he loses here. I think he was about 14 seconds off when he pitted.
Yes, I believe roughly you're right. And actually what we can do is I'm going to try to pull up some of the toys we have to play with here. I want to look at the pit stop laps of our drivers here. So you've got Henry Bennett pitting at 42, Nick DeGroot 41, Rankin at 38, and then you got Jari Brubacher 42, 44 for Matt Wagner. Andrew Wood, we talked about him kind of being completely off strategy at 27, and then also 43 for Hobson and Hysong. So a lot of these drivers, say it's pretty much, you see right there, pretty much a 2 to 3 lap window from when one went into the other one. So not a huge difference between the strategies of those guys. Now I have to remember where I pulled that up with so I can hide it one more time so we aren't seeing the pit stops the whole time. It's been a while since I've been playing with all these little features.
Right now, Charles Teed, who's a playoff driver, is the last one on the lead lap. And he's 18 seconds off the leader. And that's not too far from getting lapped because they're running 20-second a lap lead times right now.
I'm still trying to hunt down this is embarrassing. As I pulled it up, I was like, oh yeah, we'll use this, and then trying to find a way to get rid of it one more time. There it is. I had to find it again. We're good to go now. Okay. Yeah, you're right though. That the gap, though, I mean, it's now up to about 8 seconds. So, like you said, Henry over Nick DeGroot. Right now, Matt Wagner, he is working Jari Brubacher for all he is worth. Just hasn't been able to find the spot to get there. You can see right there, he's going to peak low. But again, Yari's able to keep that momentum up on the top side, so Yari's going to hang on to that position right now. And that's going to be a battle for 4th and 5th between the two of them. And Scott Rankin not that far ahead as well. It's just about 3/4 of a second ahead of Jari Brubacher. So, I mean, Matt's really looking at the eyes of a top 3 position here. You know he's going to want to get every spot he can, again, and try to close that gap on Nick DeGroot.
But if all these guys are able to do a 2-stop race, and Scott Rankin, he pitted a few laps early, right? So he's probably going to have to do a 3-stop race. He may not be a problem for these guys.
Yeah, either 3-stop or maybe has to go real aggressive fuel save on the next run. Also, you do need to mention, unfortunately, they didn't catch it while it was happening, but Craig Forsyth, he's all the way down into 14th position, was too aggressive. I think had a 40-second hold. As he's stationary in his pits for 48 seconds, which usually pit stops are around 8. So, unfortunately, that's bumped Craig now down 2 laps down at the moment in that 27 car. I'm trying to see where Craig is on track. Yeah, I mean, he's about a half a lap behind the 007 to Henry Bennett, so not even in the spot to try to capitalize to maybe get back to 1 down at least. So, unfortunately, that green flag pit mistake extremely hurtful for that 27 of Craig Forsyth. I mean, it's dropped him. Yeah, it's dropped him 2 laps because when you look at the lap times, these guys are running pretty much 20-second laps. I mean, you get held for 40 seconds. That's basically a 2-lap hold, which is pretty brutal.
It's very painful.
So we still have a great battle here between Matt Wagner and Jari Brubacher. Matt is trying everything he can. He's giving him room, but he's not going to make it easy for him by any means. Again, I mean, both these guys are in the playoff hunt here, so I mean, we talk about it week after week. Every point is going to matter. So Yari's doing everything he can to hold that position, but right now, he's doing exactly what he needs to. But Matt's still going to keep that pressure on him. What that has done, though, is it's allowed Scott Rankin to sneak away by about a second and 3/10.
I'm looking at Henry Bennett right now. His lap times are, let's see, his last one was 20.5 almost. Yep, he's running 20.5s. He's not in clean air now, so I'm thinking that the aero is probably affecting him. And that may allow the guys behind to either gain on him or not lose as much time.
Yeah, exactly right. Because we'll actually jump up to Henry Bennett because he's right behind now Teed and Hobson, and I mean they're in their own battle right now. I mean they're battling for 8th and 9th respectively, and so if you're Henry, you want to let them you want them to let you by, but at the same time, I mean, they're kind of in their own battle, and at the same time too, they don't want to get put a lap down either.
Well, and Henry's got a 10-second lead over second place, so he can afford to save fuel now if he needs to, or just hang back and let these guys battle and not worry about trying to pass them.
Yeah, that is true, because you're right. So Henry comes through the dogleg here. He's going to enter turn number 1 as Nick DeGroot's pretty much entering turn number 3. I mean, like I said, he's got, like I said, a 10-second lead. He's basically got a half a lap lead over the field. I mean, Henry's just putting on a clinic right now. As Duty mentioned, Andrew Wood, he's just hit pit road right now in that 64 machine. I think that is a scheduled stop for him. Again, the first stop, though, much earlier than needed for a 2-stop strategy. So right now, he's pretty much the odd man out on the fuel strategy here. However, going to jump back up to Scott Rankin, because now Scott's been putting a lot of pressure on Nick DeGroot. And again, Scott pitted 3 laps before Nick. We're a little worried about his fuel numbers here. We feel like, again, they need to probably get to about, lap 84, 85, probably to make it to the end safely. Ideally for Scott, if he can go another 10 to 12 laps, he'll be in a good spot. But I'm impressed that he's been able to close the gap on that 89 car.
Yeah, he may be the fastest car in the track right now.
We're going to work the top side over Craig Forsyth. I think that's where you want to make the moves. You want to run that outside line. It really keeps the momentum up. And look at that. He's just coming at him with a huge head of steam. And as you see Nick, he's going to give him the top here, give him the bottom here. But that's going to allow that momentum off the exit, though, to go to that 89 machine. So now we go back to that question: is maybe Nick struggling a little bit, or is Scott just that fast right now? And then also maybe is Nick here maybe trying to run a little further, knowing he has yet to lead a lap? Say, hey, I got to outrun Henry by a lap. I need to make sure I get my bonus points. I know Matt Wagner's had one, and Matt's also in that position right now to have the highest climber award as well. That could be things that it's hard to think how much you can go through when you're going 180 plus at a track like Phoenix. But these guys are very smart what they're doing, and really closer to Andrew Wood here. He's trying to get, he's got the fresh tires, wants to make use of them. It's going to get really dicey right now.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a scare there.
We got a couple really good battles here. You see Andrew Wood, he grabs that one. Matt Wagner, he's still working over Jari Brubacher. So they just, as I said, caution out. That's going to change the strategy here completely. Jim Herrick looks like he was involved, has to take a tow. That's going to put caution out at lap 77, Steve. And that's right now 49 to go here. And we talked about those drivers trying to stay on the end of the lead lap. AJ Hobson, Charles Teed, they do so. And that's going to allow them to stay on the lead lap. I believe the 51 of Jim Brooks is going to be the lucky dog. Let's go back and see what happened here to Jim Herrick, however. And looks like actually may have had the same issue here. I believe contact with the wall off of turn number 2. Get a better look here at it.
Yep, that's exactly what happened.
But I believe I think his car was just in a pretty tough spot. That car just wasn't going to move. So I say race control went ahead and threw the yellow there just to kind of play it safe there. So I think that's a great call there as well. So let's jump back live because we got pit stops going on as we speak. Henry Bennett, though, I feel like he's going to be pretty safe, as I think he had a lot of lap cars in between himself and those guys around him. But that battle from second on back, though, this is going to get very interesting.
This kind of resets everything, and you know who really benefits from this is Scott Rankin.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I say, unfortunately, it's just at the wrong time for Andrew Wood. Let's say because he had just pitted not long before, but it's going to be Henry Bennett that's going to hold on to the lead. Nick DeGroot's going to come out in second, and then Matt Wagner in third. But we'll see if this is a strategy call to get a lap lead, or maybe some bigger strategies going on. But Charles Teed did not pit, Steve, so he's still going to have to make one more pit stop. But at this point, it's going to be really tight for anybody to make it to the end here. So I'm going to be curious to see what this 50 car does, because yet one more time he did not hit pit road. So right now Charles Teed showing as our race leader here.
Not sure I understand that strategy, but maybe it'll work.
It might be one of those ones where if he gets a timely caution, possibly where he decides, okay, now I'm going to take my tires, because drivers are talking about tires being pretty important for this race tonight. As you do see, though, Andrew Wood, he has stayed out here. He's going to take that waiver and get one of those laps back. I believe that's going to put him from 2 down to 1 down, and he's going to be trying to fight for that position with Josh Laston and James Ledford. They will be all 1 lap down. Craig Forsyth 2 down, and then Carl Henderson 5 laps down again with that unscheduled pit stop he had with the damage. But as I say that, I think here comes Teed now. And you know what, Steve, actually, he's going to be pitting here. We're going to be coming to, 46 to go. Basically running this one as late as he can. Jeff Heisong's actually coming in with him. Here comes a bunch of cars, I believe, to top off here, Steve. I think this is coming to I believe they're probably coming to the 1 to go this time around. So this is now, I think this is Charles Teed saying, hey, I'm going to try to run this 46, 45 laps here without having to make a pit stop if we go green to the end.
I'm thinking that Charles Teed, because he didn't pit when everybody did at first, he may get a end of the longest line penalty here for entering closed pit.
Oh, that is possible. Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye and see if he has to serve any penalties or not. So the lead lap drivers making the call, though. Jeff Heisong, Charles Teed. They're going for a little bit of a gamble here. We're going to restart this race, Steve, with 45 to go. We've seen these guys go 42, 43 laps. Now this is going to be that kind of that balance here. How aggressive do you want to be versus having the track position, or making sure you can make it to the end without a pit stop if anybody can do it. So it's going to be fun to see. Jim Brooks got the wave around. He's now back up into the 7th position, and he's got a few lap cars in between himself and the leaders, of course. But you see Henry Bennett, he's already down and away. We talked about when they could restart. It was up to the leaders, and he went early. Caught me napping, honestly, too. And he's been able to get out to a nice little margin here. And actually, we were talking about the 50 car just now coming up pit road, so I think he did have that exact penalty you were talking about there, Steve. So unfortunately for Charles, Teed was just on the edge of staying on the lead lap. Now goes a lap down to Henry Bennett here. And I say that's going to now open up the door for Nick DeGroot. He's going to try to follow through as well. So this is going to be a tough place to balance. You see Charles Teed, he wants to get that lap back, but now how aggressive can you be with these guys around you? All 3 of these guys are playoff contenders, but obviously very different situations on track right now. And they've also brought Matt Wagner right back into the thick of this as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how this is all going to kind of play out here. But now it looks like, I think Charles Teed is rolling out, though. I think he's going to let these guys battle out up front. But I think, like you said, Steve, I think just unfortunately a bit of a mistake of when to make that pit stop. Waited too long before the pits closed.
Yep. I didn't think that it would hold him in the pits, so I thought that it would just stick him at the end of the longest line.
Yeah, I would have thought the same, honestly. So we'll have to, honestly, if we get the opportunity, we'll try to find out how that all kind of kicked out. But Yeah, usually stop and hold. You're right. Actually, is usually for speeding. Actually, you know what it might have been, Steve, is maybe he was actually speeding on the entry, and got that stop and hold penalty possibly. So, that being said, so right now, strategy-wise, that really is just Jeff Heistong now is the only driver that topped off there on that one to go, who's going to try to go full fuel save here. And the other one pitting a lap later was Jim Brooks, who was the lucky dog driver. He pitted on lap 78, so he's going to have just a little bit more fuel than the guys up front, but I think it's going to be more just all about kind of what kind of pace are these guys going to run right now, which right now you see Scott Rankin, Jari Brubacher. I don't think there's any fuel savings going on between these two here.
Probably not. So I think if we look at the laps that Henry Bennett's running right now, we'll be able to tell, hopefully, if he's saving fuel, because if I remember correctly, he was running like 19.6s when we started, at least in the first run.
Yeah, it looks like 19.8 was his last time by. This time by, it's actually looks like 1997. Identical lap for Nick DeGroot. Yeah, you're right though, Steve. His best lap was in 1955. They pit on lap 77, so the laps do click off quickly, but I don't know if they're at a half a second drop off at this point in the race. So I think the fuel saving is kicking off right away here. I think Henry, Nick, and Matt know exactly what they're doing here. Just probably pretty much running a fuel number, I would say, is probably what they're trying to do right now, because Henry isn't stretching that to a ginormous lead like we saw him do earlier.
Yeah, I think that's definitely what's going on with these guys right now. The question is really, we're looking at probably 5 or 6 laps extra that they have to go compared to what they've done the first 2 runs, or the first run. We didn't get to finish the second one. I don't know if they could do that.
It's going to be a long run for sure. We'll say we're down to 34 to go. They've been under green here for, what do we say, 77, 52, so about 15 laps. We were talking about was it 40? No, it was closer to 50 laps, right? That they would have to try to run it.
From lap 77, yeah, you're going 49, 50 laps. Yep.
Yeah, so about 48 laps when they pit on 77. Of course, the other thing, though, too, is from them pitting on 77, the restart was really on lap number 80, so it'd probably be closer, to like 45, 46 laps on fuel. But yeah, it's going to get interesting to see if they can make those numbers where they're saying, actually, we're watching here is AJ Hobson's under attack from Jim Brooks. And it looks like Jim's going to complete that pass here, so that's going to move the 51 back up into the 6th position. As I say that, actually you see a tire flying around here. It's not sure if that is actual contact or a little bit of net code. So I don't see anybody stopped on track or anybody towed or anything like that. So I say, but who's got the yellowish gold wheels? It may have been Jari Brubacher, may have had a little bit of a kiss with the wall, but so far pace-wise everything looks good for him. So I think he's safe to go here still. But I am watching though that the gap right now, Matt Wagner, Nick DeGroot. Matt's slowly creeping into the picture here, Steve.
And Matt's already got, a couple extra points over Nick DeGroot.
Yeah, I think at this point, I don't think Nick's got a lap led yet out of that 89 car. Matt's got that one in his pocket. I think at this point, he's at the moment holding the highest climber as well. So, right now, that's 2 points to the advantage for Matt. So, of course, if you can get this position here as well, that's going to go from, basically right now, Matt would, I think, gain maybe about a point or so, whereas if he can get by here, this will turn to about 3 or 4 points, if I'm not mistaken. And it's saying, every point's going to matter in this run for the championship. Now the question, of course, is the fuel savings. Is he being maybe too aggressive on that fuel map compared to that 89 car of Nick DeGroot?
Well, I know if I'm Matt, I'm definitely going to sit back there and save as much fuel as I can until maybe 5 laps to go, and then try and make a run at it when I know that I can go full throttle and not have to worry about running out of fuel.
Let's say we could also play the opposite strategy, or maybe Matt's saying, hey, let's try to take advantage of Nick now, get around him, and then I go to a field map to try to maybe then force Nick to have to try to get back around me. So it's like there's kind of two ways of approaching this one. Like I said, you can wait till you know you're good to go and then you go full rich, but at the same time he might be thinking, hey, Nick might be doing the exact same thing. So that might be why Matt was trying to pounce early, but you can see now they've kind of settled back in with one another, about a half a second apart from each other. We're going to jump a little further back, so we got Jeff Heisong in a good little battle here with trying to work over, I believe, AJ Hobson for 7th and 8th. So unfortunately, Josh Lassie, you can see he's got great pace in that 09 car, just unfortunately got trapped that lap down right now. So right now he is in the 11th position as they currently run. He is also one of those big climbers, up 6 positions up into 11th. I think if not for that, getting trapped that lap down, I think he'd be much higher up the running order. So. But I'm going to go back up front, though, Steve, because Henry Bennett, that gap we were talking about between him and Matt, is now the gap between him and Nick DeGroot that's actually starting to shrink a little bit.
Interesting. So I wonder whether Nick has looked at his fuel mileage and decided that he can push a little bit harder and not have to worry.
Yeah, this is getting very intriguing right now. I think it's kind of becoming a full-on strategy race right now. Let me look at the gap that Matt's fallen back to now, about 0.8 of a second. So yeah, you just don't know if this is a strategy call or if there's something else going on here. Say James Ledford's, he's hitting pit road here, but I'm going to jump actually also to AJ Hobson because he is in a gaggle right now. I saw Craig Forsythe just try to sneak by. Jeff Heisong's trying to get around him, that car right behind him. Now I'm going to look a little bit high here, see if we can get that over-under. And it gets a great exit out of turn number 2. And it looks like Jeff Heisong is going to grab that 7th position from AJ Hobson.
And Jeff Heisong, as you noted, was the last one to top off. So he can actually afford to run a little harder than the guys up front. But I noticed that he's lost quite a bit of time to them. So I think his only chance at winning the race at this point is if they all have to pit again.
Yeah, so it's getting spicy up front here, Steve, as the 89 gets real tight there out of turn number 4. Doesn't catch the wall, but yeah, now Henry and Nick are starting to really start to battle it out with each other. I think, again, like I said, this might be Nick trying to get that lap led in that 89 car. Big crossover out of turn 2. Wow, it's a big move there as they head back into 3.
Yeah, and it looked like Henry Bennett was just about to come down to try and take that lane, and then he realized he better not do that.
So now then you wonder how aggressive are these guys racing it as hard as they can in maybe a fuel map 3, a fuel map 5, or are they going full rich here, either thinking that they can make it to the end, or again, I'm just throwing ideas out there. So we'll see what sticks. At the line, I think Nick DeGroot may have got that lap led, Steve, so that may have been the bonus point that the 89 was looking for. But these guys are far from done fighting here. I say right now, Matt, actually, as I say there, he completes the pass here. So as long as Nick gets a good 3 and 4 here, he will get that lap led that we've been talking about. So that's going to give that bonus point back to that 89 car to kind of get him more on level ground with that 11.
Boy, I'm telling you, these guys are all trying to balance aggression with fuel mileage. And Nick DeGroot seems to have decided he can be the most aggressive out of the 3 for now.
Yeah, and that's exactly it, Steve. I say those were some really big moves. And the other thing he's doing now, too, is, he's running the higher line through 3 and 4, which is carrying great momentum out of turn number 2. Not 3 and 4, 1 and 2. Carrying great momentum off the exit there, but again, running a longer distance around the track. It's only a half mile roughly, or a 1 mile track. But this little extra distance, that's going to be running that car just that little further, say maybe go from 1 mile to, let's say, 1.05 miles or something like that. But as well as I do, Steve, every little bit counts on, especially on the fuel mileage here. Actually, and they're coming up quickly on AJ Hobson. I think, unfortunately, AJ either he's really had to back his pace down, or we've talked about before with Andrew Wood, maybe a little bit of damage somewhere on that 4 car, because he's really dropped off the pace now. Unfortunately, it looks like about to go a lap down.
Yeah, he really is off the pace, especially on the straightaways. So
either Andrew Woods hits pit road.
That's kind of surprising.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I'm not sure when Andrew pitted last, but maybe just didn't think he had enough to make it to the end. So that's going to be the next question, is to watch these guys to see if and when anybody ducks off. I'll try to watch how quick Andrew's stop is to see if maybe it's just a splash of fuel or not. And actually, as I said, here comes Jim Brooks as well, Steve. So Jim's having to hit pit road here. These guys coming to 10 to go. So they either just didn't think that was going to be possible or not. I'm not sure, but looking at the stops right now.
Oh, wait, I figured it out. Andrew Wood took the waiver out.
Oh, he took the waiver out. Sorry. Jim Brooks, however, he was on the same strategy. So I think he's just decided he couldn't make it. Maybe he was running full rich. I'm not sure, but he was on the lead lap there. So this is going to drop him, I believe, at least one lap down. So actually still showing him in pit road. Yeah, now just coming out of pit road now. About an 8-second stop. So to me that says 4 tires and fuel. And he's going to come out right with the leaders here. You're going to see there goes the 89 car. You're going to see him kind of peek out right there behind. So yeah, so we're down to single digits though, Steve. We're down to 8 to go here. Actually, here comes Nick DeGroot, Steve. He hits pit road.
Oh boy. All right. I doubt anybody else is going to be able to make it then, other than Haisong.
So yeah, I mean at this rate, yeah, Haisong was one that was topping off. So I'm not sure what his lap times are looking like. So now the question is, yeah, what have Henry Bennett, Matt Wagner, what have they been doing on their fuel mileage? Because Henry's going to keep running here. So this could really swing the championship if Matt and Henry, if they've been running really long gears possibly. Looking at Nick DeGroot, he's just rolled out of pit road now. He had about a... Well, actually, it's still updating, it looks like. I think he just hit his pit stall now, I'm sorry. It looks like about another 8-second stop for him. So it looks like tires and fuel as well for that car. So here comes Jim Brooks with his fresh tires. He's got plenty of pace in that 51 machine. But now the question is, like you said, Steve, who's got the numbers here to make it? Because we're going to be coming around to 5 to go next time by.
Well, in the first run, where we went a full fuel run, Nick DeGroot pitted 1 lap before Henry Bennett, and Matt Wagner stretched it the farthest out of all of them. So Henry Bennett seems to have slowed down tremendously right now.
Yeah, this pace has really dropped off. Might be what he's doing is backing up to let Jim Brooks go, maybe steal some draft off of the 51 as much as he can. I mean, I think at this point, if you're Henry, I think it looks like to me that he's racing to try to run the field numbers out to the end. Because also Matt Wagner, he's really backed his pace down as well here. It's brought Scott Rankin to about a half a second back to him. So it's turned into a strategy race here, Steve, I think. And now it's basically who can make it to the end. Because again, 20-second laps here, now down to about 21-second laps for the leaders. Because again, they're really stretching the fuel numbers here. But yeah, I mean, right now, like you said, I mean, I'm kind of liking where Jeff Haisong sits. I mean, yeah, he's right now 15 seconds off the lead. But if either of these guys sputter with about 2 to go, that could put him in the catbird seat. At this point, though, I think it's basically, I think it's going to be pretty much win or coast at this point for Henry Bennett. I don't think we're going to see that 007. The way he's backed off his pace, I don't think there's any way he's going to bring that car into pit road.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you.
And the other thing that's happened as well, Steve, is Charles T. Remember, he had that pit penalty. He's worked his way back up into the 6th position currently. We'll have to see if he can make it to the end as well or not. I'm still watching the intervals between Henry and Matt here, but here comes Henry Bennett around the line. We've got 1 to go here, and you can see Matt Wagner, he's starting to close that gap, hoping that maybe he's saved enough for a last-ditch effort here. But has Henry saved enough himself here to get to the line first? So now it's just basically, can Henry keep the power down, keep the engine running here? But it's a quick finish line out of turn number 4. Oh, he's sputtering.
Wow.
Oh, he just made it in time there. Henry Bennett's going to grab the win by about 1/4 of a second over Matt Wagner. Scott Rankin's going to finish in 3rd. Yari Brubacher, he just ran out of, he finishes 4th, but runs out of fuel. There goes Jeff Haisong. He's going to finish in the top 5. And honestly, I mean, without, unfortunately, that penalty for Charles T., that's going to bring him up into that 6th position. First car 1 down. But Nick DeGroot having to pit, that drops him all the way to 7th position, Matt. That's going to, or Steve, that's going to really bump Matt up the running order. But Henry Bennett, man, he made the field numbers happen. Somehow he pulled it off. But I said, we're going to go back, and I want to look at that coming to the checker because he was on fumes, I think, Steve. As I said, we're going to hop, well, actually, we'll watch here in slow motion because, yeah, I mean, Matt was making a big charge at the very, very end.
Yeah, and I'm sure that Henry must have sputtered going into 3 and 4.
Yeah, exactly right. I think at that point, and that's the thing is, I mean, you put that start finish line like halfway down the kink there down the backstretch, or front stretch, I guess at this point. I mean I think that gives the win to Matt Wagner, because you will see right here as they come out, come through the start finish line. There goes Henry Bennett. He's at the line there. And then we'll go just a little further up and see exactly when does Matt Wagner swing on by here. Yeah, pretty much right just a little bit later, and yeah, Matt Wagner would have snagged that win. So kind of a Daytona Talladega, if you will, depending on where that start finish line sat, how that race was going to end.
So we were talking not long ago about mixing aggression versus fuel saving, and unfortunately for Nick DeGroot, a little bit too much aggression and not enough fuel saving.
Yeah, and I'd say, unfortunately, I'm sure he's going to be not too happy, of course, with that result. But some drivers that are going to be very thrilled with those results. So say we're going to start off with that 156 of Scott Rankin. Once I hunt him down here, there he is. So we're going to drag Scott on over here, Steve. So started in 4th, finishes 3rd. So the first thing, though, Scott, was you were one of the earlier drivers to hit pit road on the first run. Then the caution comes out before we hit that second pit stop. Were you going to be okay to make it on a 2-stopper, or were you kind of sweating bullets if that was going to?
I was always 3. I committed to 3 very early on. That first pit stop, I had to just go for it because I was just banked up in behind Yari, and there was somebody else in that first run that was right there as well. I'm not 100% sure who it was, but yeah, well, basically it might have been Craig. It was Craig Forsyth. He got a penalty on the first round of pit stops. So the 3 of us were just sort of banked up right together, and I was going nowhere. And I know I spoke to Gael right before the start of the race, and I said, "Hey, look, I mean, honestly, it's tires here. Tires are such a crucial factor throughout the run. You've got to look after them. You'll go places if you do. If you don't, you've got to commit to a 3-stop strategy. There's no other way around it." I committed, but I wanted to keep myself flexible at the same time. My plan was to run that middle tank out, and then short pit for the last one. Basically, cut the last run in half, so I was on fresh tires the entire run. So difficult to pass here that just getting that fresh air, just 2 laps. I bungled my pit lane entry and had 2 fresh laps, and I cleared Yari on that pit stop. So look, I mean, that's what it was about tonight. It was about the fresh air, and that's why Henry won.
Do you think that you would have won it without that?
I'm going to be honest. I really don't know. It's one of those ones where it could have gone every way. The problem with Henry is that he is just so consistent. And I don't have the time in the car and the level of consistency. And this is my first, I think this is actually my 2nd or 3rd overall race on a brand new wheel. And a lot of new forces, a lot of new buttons to be playing around with. So there was a lot of issues there where I was trying to set myself up, make sure that my pit stops were correct, give myself confidence in the car. So taking down Henry, no, I think I had Nick covered. So I think it was a P2 tonight was on the cards. But look, with that last run to the flag, I had Matt covered in terms of fuel. I definitely had more fuel than him, but at the same time, he's in a playoff position, and I'm not. You know, I'm happy with the podium any day of the week. I put the car in a really good spot, and very happy with what came out of tonight.
So yeah, so with the timing of the yellow, I mean, how many laps were you away from having to make that second stop? Because I mean, I think we're approaching those in the 70s, if I'm not mistaken, when the yellow came out. So the guys that stretch it, I mean, they're going to probably pit around, like, let's say 84 or so, with you pitting those couple laps earlier. You're probably like, what, maybe like 3-4 laps away, I'm guessing?
I was at 5, yeah, so 5, 6. So I could have stretched to their range. Ultimately, because I had the track position at that point in time, the goal was to run the tank out. And then, like I said, undercut on the last stop. But look, I mean, if I'd have probably committed to the fuel save strategy early, like I would have had to commit to it from the very, very get-go and not gone for that undercut. But, you know, it's one of those trick calls where sometimes you just get it right and sometimes you don't. I think both strategies, both options were wide open. If somebody could have made the 2-stop work tonight, they would have been the man to win the race for sure. Could I have made it work if I had set myself up for it earlier? Yes, I probably could have. I didn't realize how much fuel I could have saved, and I definitely, I think, threw something away there, but at the same time, I wanted to try something. I wanted to push a little bit harder, and normally I'm the guy that looks for the fuel save strategy, and tonight I went in the opposite direction. It paid off. So
Yeah, no,
I was kind of,
Go
I
ahead,
was
Steve.
surprised actually that so many people were able to go to lap 42 and even beyond that on the first green flag run. So it was certainly looking like most of the field was going to be able to do it on 2 stops if it stayed green.
the issue with that is they got to 42 on the initial run. That gets us to 84. Oh, look, you are right on the cusp, right? So actually, I didn't do the math properly. I screwed up tonight. I'm so glad that caution came out. Oh my god! Oh, I would have looked like a fool. Oh my god!
So yeah, you'll be sending a gift card to whoever brought that yellow out then.
Yeah, 100%. They won me third place tonight. Whoever that was, thank you.
Scott, tell us about your new wheel.
I have been actually very, very lucky to secure a partnership with an Australian distributor for the SimMagic product line. So big shout out to my sponsor simrigs.com. They cut me a really good discount. They've really looked after me. I want to say big shout out to Derek Audie from Simrigs. They are an Australian company. So it's good to have that support and that supply out in Australia. Derek sent me over a whole bunch of setups and settings to the wheels and things to try and things to play with. So they looked after me, make sure that everything was working out. Powered by, it's got a sim metal base on it. Honestly, I love the way that it snaps together. The way that they power the wheel itself is fantastic and get the readings through the wheel. So there's no messy cables running from the wheel. It's all literally through the base, and through the base is USB as well. So the feeling of the direct drive, I said to Guy Allen pre-race notes that the balance of the car through 1 and 2 was absolutely perfect, because it was that fraction oversteery until you loaded up the right side tires correctly, and I could really feel that through the power of a new wheel. Direct drive is just, compared to a Logitech wheel, is just night and day. It's physical, it's intense, and my right wrist is definitely a lot more sore than it would normally be at this point, but small price to pay.
Yeah, I have a direct drive also, and the difference between that and retail wheels is just night and day.
Yeah, and even between like good end direct drive wheels and mid range to lower end, because the SimMagic Alpha is what I have. So there's a line, there's a couple steps below it. There's a 10 and there's a Alpha Mini. So I actually went for the top of the range here because that's I had the money saved up, and it's a commitment, right, that I'm going to be on sim racing for a fair while. That I don't think there's any reason in my product journey for going a mid range wheel. And I think it's paid off. Yeah, look, the consistency that I'm getting, and it's going to come. I'm not as consistent as I want to be yet, and there's definitely some mistakes happening, and that's down to new wheel, new car, just getting used to all of these things as well. So, but it came, like, in the mid and late run, if you have a look at that second fuel run, I ran down Nick de Groot, and we were having a great fight. That's a 7K rated driver, and to me, as somebody who's very new to ovals, I'm hunting down and I'm out thinking about strategizing the best of the best. Like, it blows me away. Honest to God, blows me away.
And your first major race with it, so that's impressive.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah, big shout out to everyone. Matt Wagner literally said to me on that final. He said to me, I said to him, "Look, I'm not in a playoff position. You're in a playoff position. What do you want to do?" He said, "Look, we can make it on fuel. You don't screw your race over for me." So look, I was willing to go and have a crack at the top guys and punch out and lead a whole bunch of laps if that's what I needed to do to get Matt some bonus points. But it worked out that we didn't need to do it that way tonight, and we get to work away. Like, I can't say a big enough thank you to Matt as well. Matt has literally been my saving grace and has brought me into Indy, where I'm enjoying myself so much more than I ever have anywhere else. And he's such an asset. If you ever want anyone to talk to about racing whatsoever, Matt is great, provided you can put up with being called a nerd.
That is definitely a key phrase from that number 11. That's who we get to have a chat with next. But yeah, just awesome job though tonight, Scott. And I'm saying also obviously really nice to be able to have a local sim company like within the country. So I'm sure you're probably far too often having to wait for a long time to stuff to get to you in Australia. So that's really cool for sim rigs to be able to be local within the country, obviously, and be able to kind of get some quick turnaround on products and stuff like that. So yeah, say if you're still getting used to all this stuff, I mean, these guys are gonna have to be careful next season. If you run full time here, you're gonna be a force to be reckoned with. But just awesome job tonight, man. Great result for you.
Yeah, and look, one hand on at this stage on the best of the rest competition. So to be leading that again, like I said, I'm surrounded by guys with years worth of experience in these cars, and then they're teaching me so much, and I'm just having fun racing them, and there's no pressure. The best part about this group of guys is there's no mind games. There are so many other leagues that I race in, and all they do is just play games with each other or race along. There's none of that here. It's just racing, man. Like, if Henry and Nick, they want to play you clean, they play you clean, man. There's never anything dirty from those guys. It's so good. It is so good.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you say that, because I've complimented this league many times on how respectful and courteous the drivers are to one another. It
100%.
really stands out. Yeah.
And there are other leagues at the moment whereby I'm actually on the verge. I'm running P2 in a V8 Supercars and Ovals League, and I'm just not having fun because there's a team of 6 guys over there, and all they do is just play games with me every week, and it's just not fun. Like, I've got a shot at a championship, and I don't want to race. Like, whereas here, it's like I could finish 20th, and I'd still learn something and have fun. You know?
Yep.
So we're gonna hire you for recruiting for next season. It sounds like so. But no, just awesome job though tonight, Scott. Like I said, just a little bit of everything tonight. A little bit of good luck, of course, with the timing of that caution after we kind of did a little bit of debrief there. But it's obviously plenty of abilities there behind the wheel as well. And saying it sounds like going to be even better as you get more and more familiar with that new rig. So so definitely enjoy this race. Enjoy the new setup as well. It sounds like you're going to be having a lot of fun. But yeah, just great result tonight, man.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. Thank you. Big shout out to simracing.com. Cannot thank them enough. Simracermerch.com if you're looking for. That's a very good friend of mine that's making some Simracer merch. If you need designs done for new shirts and things, I'm getting a shirt designed actually with all my cars on it, which is going to be amazing. And also Simcoin/SimThunder. If you want a Bitcoin or related, you want to invest in that sort of style of thing, and you want something related to simulator racing, Simcoin is the way to go. Sim Thunder does setups, and Martin Sports Apparel is the other one as well. Cannot say thank you to all the guys that support me enough.
So you got a good group of guys there with you, it sounds like, and saying they'll be definitely pleased to see the results that you've been putting on so far. So look forward to you got 2 more races throughout the rest of this season, but like I said, I think we're gonna definitely be keeping an eye on you for the future, on the future seasons here.
Great run tonight, Scott.
Can you see me? There you go. That works now. Yeah, I'm gonna go to a shoey. Woohoo!
All right, so we're going to go from the shoey of Scott Rankin to our second place finisher of Matt Wagner. And Matt, you're going to have to go back and listen to the broadcast because you had nothing but praise from that third place finisher of Scott Rankin. But, I mean, we got to run through your race here, man, because, I mean, you had the strategy pretty nicely down here tonight. Ran real long on that first stint. Were able to save the fuel to easily make it a 2-stopper. Got the lap lead out of the way. Got the highest climber. We'll have to kind of circle back on that one if that's by design or if that was just a kind of a happy little accident, if you will, on the Bob Ross side of things. And then of course that yellow comes out, and then you guys are right on the edge of if you can make it or not. Obviously your biggest competitor, Nick DeGroot, can't make it. You and Henry are able to make it to the end. So big picture, obviously great, but then man, you see that 007 sputter out of turn number 4. I mean, just take us through your race. We'll start off with the fuel strategy on that first run, and then getting that lap lead, and also your qualifying position for tonight.
We'll start at the very beginning. The qualifying went very sour. I did a boo-boo. I didn't let the tires warm up at all, and I blasted the wall coming out of 4. And this new Phoenix setup. If you blast the wall out of 4, you don't get no do-over. You cross the line, so whatever's done, it's done. So I got a 0.00 for my qualifying effort, so I started in the back. Then I said to myself, let's just be calm, be patient, and pick them off one at a time. I saved it, tried to get that lap lead. That was the most important thing. Then I pitted the very next lap, and then surprisingly, I ran out of fuel coming to my box. That was 42 laps, so coming to the very end, it was 45 to go when we hit the green. And I said, man, I can save 3 laps. Can I save 3 laps? And lo and behold, I was trying to pressure Nick into him to burning more fuel. I was running in really high fuel. And it was quite the... I shouldn't have done that because I ran into fuel crossing the line. And when Nick had to pit with about 10 to go, I was like, oh, that's so good. Because I never had good luck this season. Like the first couple of races, as you guys remember, I've had some really bad luck. And then finally something has gone in my favor this time around. We ended up finishing P2, but sputtered across the line. I'll take it.
Well, Henry sputtered more than you did. Wondering, what did you do to save fuel that last run?
Oh, I kept it in 3 till about as soon as I pressured Nick to make him try and pass Henry, and then I went back to a little bit back to 4 and 3. I just kind of like switched back and forth. I never went on 5.
Okay, and I noticed you were definitely able to keep up, so that worked out very nicely.
Yeah, I actually ended up having to clutch it the last couple of laps, so I would actually make it. If I didn't have to clutch it, I probably wouldn't finish P2. Scott would have got right by me. So it is what it is.
So you were really cutting it close.
Exactly. You know what I was saying by lucky? Finally, things are turning, going the right direction.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, and you did plan it out pretty well there.
Yeah, me and Scott were in the same chat room together. We're discussing fuel strategy.
Yeah, so you guys obviously, strategy worked out great for the two of you, and like you said, we were watching the fight between Henry and Nick to wonder, are they running themselves too hard? I mean, we've seen races like that before in real life where the leaders basically run themselves out of fuel, or maybe then third place will kind of sneak by and steal the win. I think Pocono's definitely one that we've seen that happen frequently in racing, just with the length of that track, of course. But yeah, I mean, Phoenix is obviously a completely different story. Is it easier to save at a short track like this than maybe like a bigger track like next week at Twin Ring Motegi? Like, are you able to save fuel a little bit easier maybe here than at a big track where there's a lot more throttle time?
That's a good question. Being with these cars, so with the aero package the way it is, it's more easier to save fuel on a bigger track than it is a smaller track.
That was what I thought too.
Because of the draft, and
Yep.
and you can throw it into a higher, actually a lower fuel map to go back to 5 and save a lot more fuel. And this, a short track, you're going to lose so much time if you throw it into a weaker map, and you won't be able to keep up with the leader. And pretty soon guys will be passing you. Say if they had more, they topped off and they can make it the rest of the way, you're pretty much screwed.
I'm thinking maybe the one difference is that the leader at a track like this doesn't have that huge disadvantage of, you being able to draft off him and save fuel. It seems like everybody kind of has to save fuel about the same way.
Yeah, like I said, this track here, it's had, you know what draft luck is, right? Me and Henry were discussing it over after the race. You can't make a move, and it's more like when you try to get this real close to somebody, and you're trying to arc down into turn 1 right on that, close to that red sign on the very bottom, and you can't get there, but that draft is preventing you from getting there because of that that wall of air, and cars just pushing up.
Yep.
Yeah, it was. I mean, and it was definitely intriguing to see kind of how the race was unfolding between, like I said, basically the different fuel strategies going on throughout the various courses of the race for full fuel save and maybe kind of the half fuel save on the initial kickoff. But yeah, I mean, it was a little bit of everything for sure tonight. I mean, a lot of great racing. I mean, and obviously only the one yellow tonight, which came at an opportune time for some, maybe not so opportune for others, but. I mean, that's say we're halfway through the playoffs now. Say you've got, I know you've not definitely one you shy away from, but one of your favorite tracks next week at Twin Ring Motegi before going to Indy. I say obviously you're going to close the gap on Nick a fair bit, if not even maybe sneak around with the points lead after tonight. As I haven't looked at the points to see if they're updated yet, but I mean, just what are your thoughts now halfway through the playoff going into those final two?
Keep my head focused. Just pretend I'm in second place in the points. Just keep on doing what I'm doing. Hopefully luck falls in our direction and we don't get caught, underneath between cautions and get caught a lap down, which happened to me in the past a lot of times. You guys know that for a fact. Just keep on.
Yeah, saying Steve will be proud of you for your fuel mileage abilities tonight, I think too.
I know. So like I said, Charles has been hassling me ever since that one day, and he told me download RaceLab apps, and it's been helping me a lot. So
yeah, if you can do non-calculator math and let it do it for you, so your life's gonna be a little easier.
Oh, definitely, it makes my life so much easier with this fuel calculator. Guys, I love you at RaceLabs. Thank you.
All right, man. So we got Henry. So he's probably waiting. Say, hey, when's it my turn? So before we let you go, though, definitely want to give you the floor. A great job tonight. Like I said, you're going to have to go back and listen to Scott's interview as well. You'll definitely enjoy that one. But definitely want to give you the floor here, man, for any thanks and shouts you'd like to give.
Yeah, I would like to shout out the guys at not CBS, Walgreens today. I went and got out my booster shot. So, guys, if you got your first 2 shots in, go out and get your booster right now. The new strand of COVID's out, so guys, protect yourself at all times. I like to thank.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. No, I was gonna say you also have a question in the YouTube chat. If you'll autograph Muff Duff's baby.
Oh God! Where do you want it? Right in the forehead?
So we'll get his people in touch with your people.
I got you. I like to thank HyperX, Team Area 51, Troy Lee Designs. They put on a great league, butt kicker, guys. Just an awesome race tonight. Thanks for Scott for dealing with me in the chat room. Me and him get along great, and it's been a nice ride so far this season. Hopefully, the next 2 races, nothing bad happens, and we can close the season out with a win, which I really want. So, guys, until then, have a good night.
Yep, you too, Matt. And, I guess the best advice I can give you is don't screw up your qualifying next week.
Hey, it got me bonus points.
I'll say or do. I mean, it actually worked out. Yeah. So, like I said, he's going full Bob Ross here with those happy little accidents. So. But yeah,
thanks.
Just awesome job though tonight, Matt. Like you said, did a little bit of everything to get yourself in that prime position to make the most you could. So, like I said, it did pay off. It looks like you got a 3-point lead over Nick going into those final 2. So, I say, like you said though, I think kind of go race by race and just see how these next 2 play out. But yeah, just awesome job tonight, man.
All right, guys, I appreciate it.
Yep, great job, Matt.
All right, so I want to make sure Henry doesn't think we've forgotten about him. So we're gonna pull in our race winner in that 007. All right, Henry. So you're probably sweating bullets a couple times there tonight. I say mostly towards the end, because I mean at one point you had pretty much about a half a lap lead over the field, while still able to run that 2-stop strategy. I mean you were completely dialed in. But then you get that caution, and then you're right on the edge of that field number if you can make it or not. You've got Nick DeGroot fighting you. I'm sure question marks how he was on fuel. And then obviously that little sputter through 3 and 4 there. I'm sure that was probably where you started getting really nervous. It sounds like Matt actually had a little bit of a sputter himself there. I mean, just take us through. I'd say, take us through the race for sure. I feel like the first half was pretty much kind kind of a Sunday afternoon drive for you. But I mean, that second half seemed like things really started to pick up the strategy and just kind of the dramas, if you will, at the end.
Yeah, that fuel number at the end was really tough to manage. Like you said, ran out of fuel on entry to 3 and 4 on that last lap, and I could just see Matt, and in my mind, I could see Matt and Scott just driving by me, and it would have been heartbreak. But luckily, just managed to coast across the line in time. And yeah, before that, my biggest fear was Nick passing me, Nick or maybe and Matt as well, passing me, and then the caution coming out, and then once the caution's out, everyone can make it to the end, and it's almost impossible to pass then. So that would have been annoying as well. But yeah, before that, just managing the pace to make sure I could make the strategy of 2 stops, and yeah.
I'm curious about the very first run. I mean, you were putting down some amazing laps when you started that run, and you pulled away to, I think, about a 4.5 second lead over Nick, and I was like, "There's no way that he's saving fuel right now." And then it seemed like once you got to 4.5 seconds ahead, I don't know if you backed off or you'd worn your tires too much or what, but you definitely slowed up some, and you actually made it to like just 42 laps. So did you know that whole time that you could make it that far on fuel, or did you have to like start saving fuel about halfway?
I did the calculation as we were gridding. So yeah, I knew we needed to make it 42 laps, or 242 laps, and then a 41 lap stint. So yeah, you're right. I was, map 1 and going as fast as I could until I had a decent gap, and then put it in map 3 and started coasting a bit in the corners, just to make sure I could go long. I mean, I kind of wanted to go as long as possible because there's always danger, as you know, of a caution coming out under the green flag cycle. So you don't want to be the first one to pit. But yeah, the strategy was looking good, and yeah, I had just enough pace to make sure I didn't have to worry about dropping back whilst I was saving fuel. So yeah, everything was looking good at that point.
Yeah, I think you definitely. I felt like you were going to have it if it stayed green, but you still managed to get it even with the caution. So, just a really great job saving fuel tonight. And we had talked about managing aggression versus saving fuel, and I kind of figured, all 3 of you guys up there, you, Nick, and Matt, were all trying to find that balance. And I wondered whether you're going to push each other to the point where somebody didn't make it, and Nick, unfortunately for him, didn't. And then it was just like, okay, Henry and Matt, are they going to do it? And you guys just did.
Yeah, I could tell quite early on that Nick wasn't saving because he was taking the high line in turn 1 and 2, and that's going to just burn so much more fuel anyway. So I had a suspicion. You never know for certain, but I had a suspicion he wasn't saving. Matt, he's a great fuel saver as well. He's always on top of strategy like that. So I was 90% sure or higher that he was saving. So yeah. So maybe I could have let Nick by and then save fuel behind him, but then, like I said earlier, the fear was of a caution coming out. But yeah, that's why I did kind of fight it a little bit when he was trying to pass me. But that going side by side did actually help me save some more fuel by having to lift a bit more as we were going side by side. So that helped a bit as well.
It's amazing how things kind of pan out when maybe it's not the way you want it to go, but it actually winds up being a net positive, if you will, for you in the grand scheme of the race. It's pretty wild how that works out from time to time, but. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, Henry. We're talking about like the strategies. Like, I mean, could it have been that Nick was trying to jump around you, then he go full fuel save to try and then make you have to try to fight back around him or burn the extra fuel yourself? I mean, there's obviously so many different ways of how you want to attack the race, especially towards those closing stages. So, like Steve said, I mean, having to balance the speed, the aggression, but then also the fuel saving to make it to the end. With like you said, the risk of a caution, because if that comes out and you lose the lead, just say, like you said, you're probably in a tough position there at the end. And of course, like if you have to make a green flag pit stop, it's usually about a lap or two at least, especially with the length of pit lane here as well, having to kind of lose that much time on track. So I mean, you did a really, really great job of balancing all of that. And I mean, I'm looking at the points too. I mean, even with unfortunately having to miss last week's race, I mean, with that win tonight, you jump up into 4th position here. And I mean, you're only 34 out of it. I mean, it's saying you get the bonus points obviously for the win, and there's the higher differential between 1st and 2nd. So I mean, honestly, I mean, if you can run a race like this, these next 2 races, I mean, I wouldn't put you out of the running for trying to steal a title with basically 3 out of the 4 races. I mean, is that kind of what you're going to go for these last 2? Is just kind of go for broke and kind of go for a pole, lead the most laps, get the win, kind of try to get the trifecta, if you will?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I once I knew I was missing a race, I knew I'd have to, at least try for a win or at least a podium in each of the races, and depending on how the other people do, get almost perfect points in those 3 races. But yeah, I'm guessing Matt is in 1st place now, and Nick 2nd. But it was kind of surprising with Nick with his with the win last week, how he's going. Why he didn't take the more conservative strategy today? Because I mean, if I was in his position, leading the points, I would have saved fuel and just guaranteed. I mean, he would have got at least a 3rd place if he'd saved fuel in that last stint. So it was surprising that he went for the gamble, which is kind of what the position I'm in. I have to go for the gambles in these races to make sure I get the win, and the other guys in the in contention for the championship get I get quite a decent points gap to them in the races.
Yeah, I think that's just the way Nick's been all season. I mean, he's definitely been one to take the risks and be aggressive. And I say more often than not, it seems like it definitely works out. So obviously tonight, unfortunately, didn't pan out. And yeah, so basically after last week's race, you were 59 out of lead. Now tonight going 34 at least. I mean, 25 point swing for you in just the one race. I mean, so you do the math there. I mean, you're going to be right there if you can do 25 more next week. Obviously, I'm sure it'll be a little bit more difficult there. But I mean, it's like you average 17 points gained, you'll be right there at the number at the end of Indy. So I mean, anything can happen. We've seen crazier things happen for sure in the various races and seasons we had here at Area 51. So saying you're definitely one of those ones you never want to count out. So it's gonna be a lot of fun to see you do what you do best and go after these guys for sure, Henry. But yeah, just awesome job tonight, man. And before we let you go, though, definitely want to give you the floor or any thanks and chats like to give for that win this evening.
I have to thank the team as always. Powerslide Motorsports, you always give great support. Thank the league, Matt and Jim do an awesome job. You guys for broadcasting as ever. Love watching it back. Yeah, everyone involved in the league for putting on all the drivers are putting on a really clean race. It was a lot of fun.
Enjoy this one. Obviously 2 more to go before we get to the Christmas break. And then I think we'll have a couple weeks off before we get into future seasons, probably in January. So enjoy this one though. Look forward to seeing you in the next 2, and we'll see where the points fall after those next 2 races. But yeah, just awesome job tonight, Henry.
Thanks, guys.
Yep, and I second that. Awesome job. I think you put on a clinic tonight.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, Steve, that's our race winner in that 007 of Henry Bennett. However, one thing we haven't done yet with everything going on was with the way that finish went. So we didn't have a chance to go over our final results. So let's go ahead and pull those up here tonight. We saw that little sputter off of turn number 4, and it gives Henry Bennett the win still, though, by just over 2, or just under, I should say, a quarter of a second, 2.242 between himself. Scott Rankin there just outside the half-second mark there in 3rd. Then Yari Brupacher in 4th. Jeff Heisong, we talked about him, Steve, him being the one that also topped off on that one to go. He makes it all the way back up into 5th spot. And then again, Charles Teed had that pit penalty. He topped off on that one to go as well, but we think he had that 40-second stop and hold. Even with that, comes all the way back up into that 6th position. So a really good job by Charles making the best out of a bad situation. Nick DeGroot, unfortunately, that late pit stop drops him down to 7th. Then you got AJ Hobson in 8th, Jim Brooks 9th, Josh Laston rounds out our top 10. He had 7 positions gained throughout the course of his race, so a really good run for him overall. And then 11th on back, you've got Craig Forsyth, James Ledford, Carl Henderson, And unfortunately, not a good night for Andrew Wood. Jim Herrick and Gary Corley will be our top 16 finishers here tonight at Phoenix. All right, Steve, we got 2 down, 2 to go. Next up, we've got Twin Ring Motegi, and then, of course, the finale at Indy. Twin Ring Motegi, I don't know if you've seen any races there, Steve, but this is a very interesting track. I'll say it's an oval, but it's almost a gateway, if you will, with very different turns 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. But in a much, much larger scale. So that's going to be a lot of fun to see how those drivers can balance those 2 sets of turns. I think that could be definitely a challenge for some of these drivers here tonight.
I've never been on that track, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what that's like.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Like I said, there's been no secrets. Matt Wagner really enjoys that track, so I'm sure he's got that one kind of penciled in his calendar as well to try to kind of get max points as well for that one. So we'll have to wait and see. So like I said, it's now 3 points between first and second. Henry Bennett closing the gap as well. Third place, only 21 out, is Jeff Heisel. We talked about his results getting back up into that top 5 with his fuel saving strategy with that topping off. So yeah, I mean, it's anybody's guess right now. I think really, honestly, the top 6 drivers are all still within 41 points. So I think they all stand a really good chance of grabbing a championship here in the next 2 races. So we'll have to wait and see. But Steve, sir, as always, a pleasure. It was a lot of fun with these guys here tonight. And so we got 2 more to go, and then I'll give you a little bit of a break for Christmas. Then we'll come back strong in January.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that, Kyle.
I'm a pretty generous guy. So
do we get paid vacation?
oh, that's a good question. I got to talk to my management team on that one. I'll get back to you.
Yeah, okay.
However, as always, I say really appreciate all of you guys supporting us here at Green White Checker TV. It makes it so much fun to be able to kind of try to keep an eye on the chats throughout the course of the race. And of course, as always, got to thank the guys at Dark Horse for partnering up with Area 51, ESTV for allowing this to be broadcast on multiple platforms as well with their YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook pages as well. And of course, also then re-aired on network on their TV through Roku and other devices. So definitely check them out as well. But yeah, so I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Usually, like I said, Thursday is usually Happy Friday Eve. However, tonight we're going to say Happy December Eve because somehow November's over. We got December coming up tomorrow. So yeah, I say I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Steve, always a pleasure, sir. And yeah, thank you all for watching. We'll be back on Thursday for the Super Speedway Truck Series. Definitely check that one out as well. We'll be in the same boat. We'll be race number 2 over there with the trucks. This is going to be a lot of fun in that championship battle as well. So until then, thank you all so much for watching and supporting. And until next time, I should say, have a good night, everyone.
Night, everybody.